Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for joining. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the trauma lens and how that builds self-compassion. Also, a bunch of other wonderful benefits that we get from this frame of work. Yeah, thanks for joining. Let's get started. So first, let's define the trauma lens, right? What does that even mean? The way that I like to describe it is kind of shifting our mindset from this question of what's wrong with me to what happened to my body that I am responding in this way, that I'm showing up in this way. We can see how this starts to kind of shift this question, this difference in question can start to shift our perspective. It can start to shift the way that we view things, and it can start to shift the way that we show up in the world. So our bodies are experiencing this life in an environment that sometimes it can feel hostile. Sometimes it can feel unforgiving. And because of that, the system, in other words, our bodies, get this injury placed on them, or this difference. In addition to the environment, oftentimes we have messaging that's coming at us that feels incongruent or mismatching to who we are as individuals. We also have narratives. We have thoughts in our minds. We have thoughts that come to us, narratives that live inside of us that also feel difficult or challenging. Maybe they feel unkind. And again, this puts pressure on the system, which is like an injury on the system. And that, it is trauma. It is trauma that our bodies are experiencing. Whether the trauma is intentional or unintentional, and oftentimes it is unintentional. Why do I say that? I say that it's unintentional because we live in a world with other humans who are holding on to their own injuries, holding on to their own traumas, and their bodies are experiencing ways to navigate that also. And so because we are living in this world, many times the injuries or the traumas that we experience are unintentional. However, whether the trauma or the injury that our body experiences is intentional or unintentional, the outcome of the body, the way that the body receives this information, is the same. It's the same whether it's unintentional or intentional. I think it's just helpful to understand that oftentimes the injuries and the traumas that our body experiences is in fact unintentional because of this dynamic of living in a world where we have other humans under the very same circumstances that our bodies are in. So how does the body respond? In reality, it responds very differently for all of us. Our bodies all respond differently to these injuries and these traumas. But what is important to note is that our body is going to continue to exercise what works for it. So whatever is working for it, it's going to exercise that, right? This process of our body kind of wanting to find a way to seek safety, to seek survival in these environments, the way that our body seeks safety in these environments is something that is practiced by our bodies since the beginning, right? The way that it starts to kind of play with what works for it. I mean, we can think back all the way to conception, infancy, childhood, adolescence. It's figuring out what's going to work for it. Once something works, it will continue to exercise that method, whatever it is that's working for it. And so when we start to think about it in this way, it deepens our understanding of why we're showing up in the world the way that we're showing up. So the relief that this provided for me, it's important to touch on, because when I started to shift my questioning from what's wrong with me to what happened to my body that it's reacting in the way that it's reacting, it started to develop compassion for myself and for others that I was interacting with in the world. It changed that perspective for me, which is kind of important to note. It provided a deeper understanding, and this understanding was coming with empathy, with compassion, with self-love, rather than feeding into, again, this narrative of what's wrong with me, which implies there's something that I need to fix, not something that I need to heal. So through understanding it in a process that my body needs to heal rather than I need to fix something. And so when I started to have more of that empathy and more of that compassion, more of the understanding, it began to demystify why I am showing up in the world the way that I am, right? And with demystifying something, naturally, it becomes less scary. It becomes less overwhelming. And so with that, I encourage you to shift that question to what happened to my body that makes it that I respond in the way that I do, with that very simple question. So friends, thanks again for joining. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button below. If you have anything that you would like me to bring to this channel, please leave it in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like button if you like this video. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.